I suppose it doesn't. I actually feel that it doesn't particularly affect me, other people's expectations. You know, it's expectations maybe of myself, but I'm not sure that I get too swayed by other people's expectations. You know, it's theirs. You know, I don't feel that it's mine, so I don't think I get too hung up on that, really. I think people do have expectations. That's part of our culture, really, isn't it, right now, that people do have quite high expectations. But I see that as well as some sort of inflexibility. You know, that people, and especially when people are really busy, it's like they put themselves into like this rigid way of being, because that's the only way they cope, really. It's the only way a lot of people survive nowadays, is by actually having everything organised and everything ordered. So when they come somewhere where it isn't, I think they just find it really difficult, you know, because it's sort of outside their normal mode or way of being, really. And I also feel sometimes that people get... that people are sort of envious of that more relaxed way of being, because it's the way they'd like to be, but they can't see how they can do it in their normal life or in, you know, in the way that they are. So I think that also can bring out sort of irritation or anger or frustration in people, because, you know, they're not living the way that inside really they'd like to live. You know, when they see other people doing it, living in a beautiful place and living in a more relaxed way, you know, and...
Do you think it's because everybody senses in a deep way that life is actually quite simple?
Yeah.
And very often we don't understand the obstructions in the way of our enjoying life. And really, things like expectations and desires and things, to me, I see those as very much part of the problem. That there is an expectation. Who is it that expects it? What do they expect and why? Almost.
One thing I've noticed since I've been here is that I seem much more conscious of kind of struggles or issues that people have that are kind of typical ones associated with living in the rat race, which were there before, but because I know I've got quite a profound contrast with that, living somewhere where it feels more peaceful. It just makes me more conscious, and I notice it particularly when when I went away back home for a few weeks. I just felt I had a different consciousness. I was more discerning and noticing a feeling of kind of people being at odds with themselves, or which I probably just took for granted more before I came here.
So it helped you, did it really? Helped you in your communication and understanding or whatever?
A more discerning consciousness sort of thing. Like, almost like being an outsider. Do you know, if you go to a country that there's a different culture than the one you're used to, you can kind of pick up on things which maybe people that live there all their lives aren't as conscious of. And it almost feels like that I've kind of pulled distanced away in a way which makes me feel much more centred than usual, than I've been before. And whenever I kind of look back to where I was, I feel I've just got a stronger consciousness of the life I was living before I came here, and the life lots of other people are still living.
So more aware. Your awareness is you can see how you were living, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And how that was what? Difficult for you to carry on living that way,
I
obviously.
couldn't be part of it anymore, and like I've kind of wrenched something away from myself.
And is that scary or not?
Probably not scary, just quite exciting, I suppose. Liberating, definitely.
Like purging.
Yeah.
It's like a cleansing almost, you know, something falls away.
I mean, in a part it was a process that was already quite established before I came here, because I was living a life of an outsider, but it was very much in a solitary way before I came here, doing my own thing and not engaging the community around me in a way that people would normally be expected to. Like I would have generally been perceived as like an unemployed dropout before I came here for years. And just that transition of moving somewhere where you just stop feeling like that, and you feel like you're not a dropout anymore, and you're part of the environment rather than detached from it. And it just kind of feels really, there's a lot of loose threads have suddenly got consolidated, and there's no more loose threads anymore.
Mm.
Okay, I've got a question. If you could live in somewhere on this picture, where would you live?
Which house?
Well, you can live in it. You don't have to live in a house if you don't want to.
That house there.
That's my choice. But then I didn't really look at it properly because it's got a road near it, so it might be good this one.
One of the big towers would be nice as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Or even this house up here, because then you can look down.
Yeah.
You've got the benefit of everything then.
Yeah. And you're away from people.
You can see around there. Where is this place anyway?
In Austria, I think. Weidhofen.
Oh, Weidhofen, huh?
Definitely built it just 'cause they wanted to build somewhere that looked good in the jigsaw.
Yeah, I think that's probably the driving force.
Did it tell you about the number of smiles per hour story?
No.
You know, that camera, whenever it senses a smile on someone's face, it automatically takes a still picture. When Sarah did it, it took 20 pictures, and when Linda did it, it took 50 pictures.
You shouldn't have told me that though, because I'll be conscious of smiling.
Sorry.
I'll try not to. I mean, I won't try not to smile, but I'll try not to smile when I don't want to. That makes sense.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I thought one thing which would be good to do in this kind of situation would be to do a kind of community artwork. Do you know in those Chinese restaurants where you get turntable tables?
Yeah.
Do something like a piece of art where you could, like a collage where you could just colour little squares and then just turn it around every so often and just do a kind of community.
Great idea. Yeah.
I'll have to do that for
Different
future
people have different bits in.
filming project.
That'd be really nice idea.
Look, the house is there.
At my house.
You can't get in at the moment because there's no front door.
Well, I feel like being here has given me like space to concentrate on what I actually think is important, like what I actually believe I should be spending my life doing and thinking about, rather than getting caught up in like whatever job I might have to take because I need to pay the rent or whatever, you know, not having to worry about that kind of stuff so that I can actually do what I feel I should be doing rather than just doing what other people think I should be doing kind of thing. Not that I sort of felt like it's just that when you live like a sort of conventional, if you want to call it that, type life where you're sort of working, even if you're doing a job that you choose, mostly, you know, you've got some say, like, yeah, I could be, you know, I could work in a bank or I could like be a carer or whatever, you've got some choice, but your choices are still really restricted, because you've only got choice to a certain extent. And like most people, if they're honest with themselves, or me anyway, didn't really like the choices and wanted something different. And like I always sort of wanted to do something good or like help people in some way or help the planet or something, just do something that was worth doing rather than feeling like I was wasting my time. So I sort of went in for like sort of social work type jobs, and that's, you know, satisfying to an extent, but I still felt like, you know, this isn't really quite it. this is good, like it's probably one of the best of options I've got here, but I could be doing something else. But I didn't really know what. But being here feels right, so. And I don't feel like I'm not doing anything here, even though other people might perceive it in that way. That's probably because they don't understand what I am doing here. But for me, I think I'm sort of working on myself in a big way, so I think that's really important for me and everyone around me. And then if I do go out there and get a job, I'll probably be a better person, hopefully. But I can't imagine going out there and getting a job, to be honest. Not really. I think I'll always live a bit of an alternative life. I'm not saying I'm never going to work, because I will, but I'll never sort of have that conventional 9 to 5 type thing, I can't imagine it.
Yeah, I'd say it was definitely true for me as well, the idea of me being more peaceful, and I can remember for quite a long time anyway. I don't know if I might have felt like this when I was like a kid or whatever maybe, but I'd say for at least since about the age of 14 till I came here, I've not felt less peaceful in all that time, I would have thought. I think some of the old habits might still be there, but I think there's a will to sort of overcome those, and I think that in everyone here, which is quite different from anywhere else, everyone's common vision is to be more harmonious together, and I don't really see that in many other places in the world that I've ever been. But it's the old thing that, for me, that I just can't believe. It's realising that the masses, or the many, the people, the public, at any moment, like, they've got the whole world in their hands, and the fate of the world in their hands. Because, like, you know, the people build the bombs, they fight the wars, they drill the oil, they spend the money. And if everyone just decided not to do that, that's all it takes, really. Just to be with each other.
It needs all those people like at the end of the chain, really, like the armies and things, the people in the army or whatever, to say no, we're not going to do it.
Yeah,
you know, because then there would be no armies. You know, if the people at the bottom line said no, we're not going to fight, no, we're not going to kill people.
If everyone just said, you know, anyone just always, it's always there, the potential for the world to just be whatever it wants to be, really. I can't believe that, though, because it's so simple, really, that how quickly everything could just turn around. And all that would be left is probably just a handful of people who have no capacity. I mean, you know, the real people in charge of the world, I suppose, at the top, who have no capacity to do any of the things that damage the world.
Because they'd have nobody to do it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.